So the results are unofficial, but by the time we get this edited and up, they'll probably be official. I got elected to the Studio City Neighborhood Council. Our director says I'm a liberal version of Trump because I come from the entertainment industry. I won my very first election. I kind of admit to things that that a lot of candidates don't. I have a checkered past of public nudity and being a roller skating waiter. I've never paid off any porn stars. I've had lunch with a porn star, and I wrote a porno with my writing partner. Anyway.
What is the actual title?
I think I'm a member of the studio of the. I'm a member of this. I'm a board member of the Studio City Neighborhood Council, and I've got ideas. I mean, it's weird that I got elected in that I kind of said that I may not be the best possible board member. I said that I'm 9 out of 10. I'm 9 or 10 out of 10 for new ideas, but only 5 or 6 in follow-up. But for some reason, I don't know why I got elected, but thank you for your votes. I've got ideas. There's this bill that's working its way through the state legislature called SB 50, which is meant to address the severe housing shortage across California by increasing housing density, which communities in general, but particularly nice communities like Studio City don't particularly want. We don't want to pack a bunch of people into our nice neighborhood. Like one provision of SB 50 might raise the height limits of buildings along major streets from 45 feet to 60, which screws people over if they own a home or if they live in an apartment in the block behind those, to the north of those buildings. Because since we're in the northern hemisphere, the sun shines from the south. But I have a solution, which is only build the 60-foot buildings on the south side of the boulevard. And that way the shadows from those buildings falls into the street and doesn't screw over the homeowners on the north side of the street. And I have other ideas, but they're not exciting to talk about. Tonight, yes?
Are we changing subjects?
Unless you want to do more about that.
No. Okay, I'm going to cut real quick.
Okay. Cutting. 103.2. Tonight was the series finale of Game of Thrones, which I don't watch because it's too cheap to pay for HBO. Plus, when I do pay for HBO, I get nothing done because I always just watch HBO. But Lance watches. What do you think, Lance?
Well, I think it was a very, all right, I have to give a spoiler.
But this won't be up for like 5 days, so people should, just
all right, well, what we find out is that the only person that, Daenerys is an evil monster that's going to continue with constant bloodshed. And just at the moment she attains power, it falls to Jon Snow to assassinate her. And I was thinking that Rick just got elected in his rise to power in his first election. And I might be the only person that can get to Rick before he does whatever he's going to do.
I think the worst I can do is shard at a board meeting.
Which might not be the worst thing that's happened at a board meeting. Well, anyway, I'm just saying that it's a mixed blessing when a liberal like Rick gets elected to office. I mean,
Yeah, but for a liberal, I'm pretty pro-business. I want to turn Studio City into a business incubator, so we have something going on if we happen when the entertainment industry kind of evaporates, because LA won't be the center of entertainment forever. New York was the center of entertainment for most of the 20th century, and then everything moved to LA. And similarly, it'll be much there'll be less and less of a center to the entertainment industry, and like Studio City has the Radford lot, which is a huge lot run by CBS, and it's a great lot. It's maybe the most pleasantly situated major production lot in Los Angeles. But that doesn't mean it can't go away. CBS sold Television City on Fairfax, and they could bail on Radford at some point in the next 10, 15 years. And Studio City needs to have other stuff going on if something like that would ever happen. We should pause because Lance is looking for something, and there's no Lance right now.
It's okay, just,
All right, well,
Science Corner.
all right, Science Corner. What was I going to?
The
Oh,
multi-
they're shooting me full of iron. I'm iron depleted. I have half the hemoglobin of a normal man. I may need to get my hemoglobin levels up before they operate on me. So I had my first iron infusion a couple days ago, and it's scary because when you go for stuff like that, you're in the middle of cancer land, which is it's a scary place. So Lance, have I turned color yet? Because I should be making much more blood. I've been, for the history of the show,
Can you put your hand up, please? The other one.
Oh, hand up, okay.
For the history of the show.
I've been extremely pale. You said paler than any other model you've ever had.
That's true. Can you put your thumb over that thing?
Like this?
Yeah.
So, have I started turning color yet?
For the sake of the world we live in, I'm sorry to say, now that you've begun your rise to power, you actually are pinker. So you are definitely a threat to humanity. You're healthy enough to do it, may cause a lot of trouble, Rick.
Yeah. One thing I noticed was immediately after the infusion, my boy part, which has been a sad, shriveled little thing, was a little bit like more turgid.
Can you tell the members of the audience what the word turgid means?
All right, so
Because I don't know what it means.
It
And I
means-
figure if I don't know, they don't know.
firm and swollen. Like when carrots get old, they get kind of, they lose turgidity. They go from being hard and crunchy to being kind of soft and mushy.
I was going to say, you look kind of engorged.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm making blood again.
All right.
Also, let's see. What about the? And my pulse seems to be dropping because when you don't have enough blood, your heart has to go bam to move what blood you do have to make it work double time. But if I have more blood, then my heart can get lazier, which would be, I guess, good for my heart.
So let's get Lance's blood boiling a little bit and pumping. And you say Trump has some money laundering issues going on?
Well, I want to talk about one more thing, that's entertainment-y, which is I saw Avengers Endgame today and stayed awake for the whole thing, even though it was 3 hours. So that means it was pretty entertaining. But I think that we're in the era of peak human entertainment. This marks the apex of humans being entertained, and it's the end of an era because future entertainment will be will be less human. Will be done more by artificial intelligence and augmented intelligence, and will appeal more to what you call post-human or transhuman interests. The same way that representational art, you could argue, and Lance, you can tell, like had its peak when? In the 16th, 17th century?
Yeah, I guess so.
And then photography came along and effed over realistic painting.
Yeah, it died in that. It died out with color photography. That was pretty much it.
So I think that the Marvel, 22 Marvel movies so far, are kind of the peak of human aspiration and craft. I mean, these movies, 10,000 people work on them, with the CG and all. Casts of hundreds and thousands, and all about humans getting their wishes granted. Because everybody in a superhero movie is superhuman. They're still human, but they're human with abilities that humans would have if they could give themselves whatever abilities they wanted. Flying and invisibility and indestructible and time traveling and whatever you want. And in the future, entertainment is going to be not about what humans want, but what the things of the future want, which won't be exactly human. And one little bit of evidence in favor of this is the sexlessness of major movies nowadays. Now, Game of Thrones had a lot of sex and a lot of boobs. But the Marvel movies are pretty sexless. You have people with the best bodies in entertainment. The various Hemsworths, the Chris's, the Evanses, wearing, the Scarlett Johansson, and people wearing stuff that people who work out 14 hours a week or 20 hours a week to get ready for the movie, wearing tight stuff that emphasizes. There was a lot of talk in this movie about whether Chris Evans's butt was any good. But even so, it was kind of people in the Marvel movies do not do much hooking up. There wasn't. I don't think there was any scene like post-coital scene in bed between a couple superheroes. So the movies are kind of sexless, which makes sense in that the source material, the comic books, is written for kids who, may be pre-sexual. But there are, our biggest form of entertainment indicates that to some extent, entertainment is becoming post-sexual. The Star Wars universe, there's nothing sexy going on there. Nobody bangs anybody. Nobody discusses plots against the Empire while smoking cigarettes after they banged. And in fact, in society itself is becoming less sexual. If you look at statistics, now you and I, Lance, we grew up in a particularly sexual time, the 70s, which there was a big emphasis on sex, but now I think people view sex in a more utilitarian. No, that's not sex more as a thing to just like you look at porn, you beat off, you take care of it, and then you go about the rest of your life. Anyway, Lance.
I think that people are having less sex, but they're more screwed up about it. So that there's a lot more there's a lot more perversion. We're dealing with young people that have been watching porn since they were 7 years old.
Speak up.
I'll
Just a little bit.
Yeah, God damn it! We're watching young people that are watching porn since they were old enough to open up their parents' computer. They all know about passwords. You can't keep anything from kids these days. So they've been seeing the most perverted sex in history on the computer every day. So I maintain that they may be having less sex, but they're a lot more perverted than we ever were.
It's not,
And not in a good way.
well, it's not perverted as much as there are certain conventions in porn, like where the jizz ends up. That
Well, this is a family show,
well,
Rick. I don't know if we
well, that,
can go
anyway,
there.
that's one of the conventions that people see. That people who have seen more porn than they've had actual sex think, well, I guess we need to end it in a certain way, which is really not the way that people throughout history have ended sexual encounters. Also, a lot of porn sex, and I've said this before, happens in attic rooms with slanted ceilings. It's crazy how much porn gets shot in attics. Porn and also teen movies, because the probably fully 50% of characters in teen movies live in attic bedrooms with dormers and sloped ceilings.
Interesting.
So,
Well, all right, so what are we concluding? I would say that young people, millennials these days, are very perverse. That they don't know what natural sex is supposed to be like. They learn about sex from the computer, and I think they're weird. I mean, I don't know.
yeah.
The things that, all right, I live in LA, but I went maybe a couple of weeks where every woman I met had a porn film that she'd done. And some of them carried the DVD in their purse. If they liked you, they'd show it to you. This is a true story.
When was this? When people still had porn on DVD?
No, yeah, I mean, I will say, it was a number of years ago. But I have found that it is a very common thing for young people these days to have been in a porn film or want to be in one, or made one for their friends and their girl. Like people they've got those cell phones and they're filming everything.
Yeah.
And we would never think of that, you know. It's sort of like the way I feel. It was like the lights off.
Well, it was hard to.
And whispering, the lights off, whispering in a dark room in a basement in the middle of the night. No one told the tale about it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't even know I'm not even sure who I had sex with. It was so dark.
To be fair, back then it was really hard to film a porno on a dial telephone or a typewriter.
Yeah, and not only that, but you didn't. Not only did you not film it, you didn't even talk about it. It's like it never even happened. Now, if you have sex with somebody, you put it on a T-shirt. My theory is that someday people will they will have to submit a porn film when they apply for a job.
Well, I think there needs to be a national pornography corps, like the Peace Corps,
Okay.
where if you're not doing anything, if you're jobless or directionless in your young adult years, you can sign up to make porn for everybody's benefit. And that way, if everybody's made a porno, then there will be no shame associated with porn. And it will be a veritable utopia.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly didn't harm Kim Kardashian.
Yes. And I mean, the Kardashian empire is the first billion-dollar empire built that began with a sex tape.
All right, so I think we settled that issue.
All right.
If anybody watching this is under 50, you're a bunch of perverts.
But perverts with a very business-like approach to sex, where take it or leave it, it's just something, it's just a biological drive you need to take care of or not. And, not approached approached in a very, meh way, as opposed to the desperation with which we, or at least I, tried to lose my virginity.
There's something wrong. Camille, do you have anything to add to this? Our director is an expert.
No, shaking his or her
Shaking
head.
his or her. All right, so let's move on. What's the next?
Deutsche Bank.
All right.
So for the 2 years plus we've been doing this show, I keep saying Trump, Deutsche Bank, money laundering. Today it was in the news again that somebody years ago, Deutsche Bank had a department, I think it still does, that flags transactions that might potentially be money laundering. Do we need to tell people what money laundering is?
Yes.
All right. So money laundering is just, if you've watched Breaking Bad, you kind of have the idea of how it works. It's really not, doesn't have to be complicated. I guess it can be, but the deal is that if you have a source of large amounts of
Put the other hand in.
this one?
Yeah.
Of illicit money, like if you've made $2 billion from drugs, it's hard to spend that money unless you make it seem legitimate. So you set up businesses that can report huge earnings, like the car wash in Breaking Bad probably made a hell load of money that it didn't really make, but it was that they bought that business so that they could say, well, yeah, we made all this money from the car wash, not from drugs. So it's taking money that came from bad things and making it appear that it came from.
Do they do that with concerts and stuff like?
I don't know. I mean, I grew up in Boulder in the 70s, and I was told that a lot of the businesses in town were money laundering operations these were businesses that didn't actually turn a profit, but appeared to be immensely profitable because they were fronts for cocaine business.
But give me like a definitive example.
All right, so say it's Boulder, and it's 1982, and you're making, I don't know, $50,000 a month from cocaine. You've got a friend in the diplomatic corps who's able to smuggle in, a kilo or two every month or two, and you're dealing this shit. You're a better dealer than the dealers I knew who had tended to just snort up all their profits.
So if you just like put $50,000 in the bank,
So
you're
making more than $500,000 a year illicitly, and you'd like to be able to spend it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So you open up a T-shirt business on the mall in Boulder, or a place that sells, hamburgers or something. And the place that sells T-shirts or hamburgers makes $12,000 a month. On a good month. That's what, $400 a day. Maybe it only makes $8,000 a month. But you report that it makes $48,000 a month. And you pay taxes on the $48,000. And you've taken that extra $40,000 a month that you say your business is making, you pay taxes on it, and that illegitimate, illicit money from cocaine becomes legit money from hamburgers or T-shirts that you are lying and saying you sold.
The only loss you get is the taxes that you paid on it.
Yeah, but by paying the tax, you've legitimized that money. Yeah. And real estate is a way to play money laundering games.
How so?
You're a Russian oligarch. You're friends with Putin. You grew up with him. You went to the same karate school. And when communism fell and Putin came in, he let you have some industry, say the tin smelting industry across Russia, and tin and other metals, maybe some kind of metal refining industry, and you're making, your business is clearing $80 million a month. So, close to $1 billion a year. And you're building up, but your friendship with Putin can be, you've noticed that his friendships can be tenuous. And that if he decides he doesn't like you anymore, he can take away your business and he can throw you in jail. So what you want to do is set up a rainy day fund in case you have to flee the country. So you need to get money out of the country. The $2 billion you've accumulated in 2 years of refining metal doesn't do you any good if it's in Russia, because Putin can pull it from you. So you start buying shit overseas. And say there's a guy who has some properties, and he'll sell you some properties, but he's going to charge you a premium. Their property might be worth $11 million. And he says, yeah, you can buy it, but it's for $50 million. He gets $50 million. You pay him the $50 million. You end up owning the property. You buy several of these. And you've spent more than they're worth, but at least you've gotten the money out of a little. So if you have to run, maybe you've spent $120 million on property, and you've ended up owning property that you can turn around and sell for $40 million. So that's a big hit, but the money, it doesn't become real money until you can get it out of Russia. So you've paid a lot of money to get it out of Russia, but at least you have, you can live a pretty nice life for with $40 million outside of Russia. So that's kind of a thing that might be going on. So anyway, some Trump transactions and some Jared
Jared Kushner.
Yeah. Some of those transactions years ago got flagged by the money laundering department of Deutsche Bank for further scrutiny. Though nothing further happened except that the woman who flagged the transactions got fired from Deutsche Bank.
She wasn't fired.
Okay. Did she quit? What happened?
No. It just said that her career went badly after that.
Okay.
It doesn't say how.
Okay. Anyway, so for some reason, this was back in the news again today. That I guess that we didn't previously know that some Trump transactions were flagged. But just because they were flagged, to be fair, doesn't mean a lot of transactions for big money got flagged. Then somebody said, well, we just need to take a look at these and make sure that they're not. So there was no further action taken. The woman who flagged them, her career didn't go well. So it's in the news, and in the words of, one of the stations I listened to this morning, there's smoke but no fire, which is what it's always been with this stuff. And and it's probably hard to prove, stuff like money laundering anyway. You have to build like a huge circumstantial case.
Watch Ozark? Is that what happens?
Yeah. Our director is mentioning Ozark, which is, what's his name? What's his frickin'... Anyway, what's it on, Showtime?
Netflix.
Netflix. Okay, it's what's his face from Arrested Development. His character sets up, he's working for a bunch of Central American drug dealers laundering money for them. And he sets up a casino in, Arkansas?
In the Ozarks or something like that.
Wherever the Ozarks are. Through which they will launder a bunch of drug money. The casino will make like $600,000 a month, but they'll say they're making, $2.5 million a month, and that way they'll be able to launder more than $20 million a year in drug money.
Can you move over a little bit? Just your torso, so you stretch your arm a little bit?
This
No, it's just kind of move your,
this way.
yeah, more away from me. That's it, that stretches your arm. Okay, very good.
All right, so you got anything to say about?
Just another pathetic attempt to find some way of embarrassing Trump or casting some kind of aspersion on him. I read the article that you gave me, and it didn't even say what the money laundering was about, but it managed to slip in like a dirty, liberal, lying rat that this bank had money laundered for Russians. So without any evidence at all that this even happened, and without any tie to these Russians, they managed to get in Trump money launderers, bank, Russians. And it's really, I'm so wise to it now, how rotten our enemies are in this country. Because we have to deal with people that are willing to lie to get what they want, which is just power. Because they certainly aren't going to do anything to help our country. All they want is to make Trump look bad. And while Rick was reading about Deutsche Bank, Trump, Russians, I actually found out who wrote the dossier that Christopher Steele. See, Christopher Steele was an agent that was paid for that the Clinton administration, the Clinton people paid Christopher Steele to come up with lies about Trump. And we found out this week.
The dossier is the dragons of this show. They come up every week, or most weeks.
But
not as exciting because the dossier
I'm not as finished. Let me finish. Wait, you wanted to make a joke? Go ahead.
No, just make the joke.
Not as exciting because
Wait, we're breaking. All right, 1033.
All right, so I was saying before we broke that we now find out, as we all know, the Clinton campaign paid Christopher Steele to come up with a pack of lies about Trump, and we finally found out who wrote those lies, because Steele maintained he was a spy that had contacts in Russia, and he always maintained that he didn't write the dossier. He just presented it with information that he had gathered. So we found out this week, it is May of 2019, who wrote the lies in the dossier. It turns out it was the former head of the Russian intelligence service. So it's not called the KGB anymore. I think it's the G something, but
So it ends with a U or something, right?
But the former head of that service wrote the dossier.
Where is that guy? Is he still in Russia?
Yeah. He gave it to Christopher Steele. Christopher Steele then gave it to the head of the FBI, the head of the CIA, and the head of the National Intelligence Service. Comey, Clapper, and Brennan, 3 of the 4 or 5 intelligence heads of the Obama administration took information written by the Russian KGB, and they used it to get permission from a court to surveil, spy, and tap and read the emails of the political opponent of the president.
All right, so let me ask you this. didn't Barr just appoint a special prosecutor to look into this whole
He
thing?
did,
So,
but not a special prosecutor. What this guy is, see, what Mueller was, didn't have any legal teeth. He could recommend an indictment. And actually, he could, but this guy that Barr just appointed actually does the indicting. So if he finds that the CIA and the FBI under the Obama administration were actually had no cause to surveil and harass the political opponents of Obama, then they can then this guy can actually bring an indictment against them.
all right, so let me just quickly issue a boilerplate liberal denial saying, that whole investigation is bullshit. But that's not my point. Let me make this point, which is a more fun point, which is, Trump famously said that he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and his people would still support him. And then he did kill a guy on Fifth Avenue by not having sprinklers installed in Trump Tower. And in fact, nobody cares. But the deal is that it's often like the people can be fickle in their support of a president. And it's often not the actual issues that affect people's support. For instance, Jimmy Carter. A bunch of things happened with Carter that made people think he was kind of a clown and contemptuous of him, and he did not get reelected, including he tried to run a 5K, and he had to drop out because of hemorrhoids. People thought that was pathetic. He was in a boat, relaxing, and I guess his arm is dangling over the side, and something like a large rabbit, swam out to the boat and bit his hand. People thought that was pathetic. He wore sweaters when he gave speeches from the White House. People didn't like that. There was other stuff that just made him seem, well, a real thing is he tried to free the hostages from Iran, and that thing failed. Gerald Ford.
Oh, please, Rick, come on, get to your point.
Okay, all right. Well, no, most of these things were, these things are piddly, trivial things.
Okay.
And just one more guy, Gerald Ford, actually one of the more athletic presidents we've had in recent history, was portrayed on Saturday Night Live as being a stumble bum, just running into everything and tripping and just kind of a dumb, clumsy guy. And this affected his popularity.
Because he fell, right? Tripped from a plane or...
Well, yeah, but if you look at those stairs and that opening of Air Force One is... a lot of presidents have stumbled. But SNL made Ford the real stumbly guy.
You can put your right arm down.
Okay, so
Can you explain to me how this relates to what I just said, please? Can you get to the point?
my point is, what happens
Move over. Move your torso. There. Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
What happens if Trump loses the support of his base, not for any... because what if it becomes fashionable to decide Trump is a jackass among people who don't currently think Trump is a jackass? I'm saying there's a possibility of that. And it won't necessarily hinge on, the specifics of complicated investigations. It could hinge, there's plenty of stuff. The same way with Nixon, there was plenty of stuff to make fun of Nixon for that did not relate to actual actions or policies. His 5 o'clock shadow, his ski nose, the way he talked, people used to imitate.
Could you please get to the point?
All right, the point is that people can turn on Trump for non-serious reasons, and it could seriously affect his support if people just decide after 2 years of him being president that he's a jackass.
But why would they do that?
Because it's happened in history to a lot of presidents.
Okay. Can I talk now?
Yeah.
All right. Now, a minute ago, I told you that the head of the CIA, the head of the FBI, and I don't know what Clapper is in charge of. I think it was the National Intelligence. It's got its own name. And NSA, I think. Those three men were the Obama administration's intelligence officers. They were the highest people in intelligence in America.
Okay.
And they took it upon themselves using Russian KGB dossier to surveil and put spies in the campaigns of Obama's opponent politically. Now, their goal was to try to find dirt or anything they could use to destroy the Trump campaign. Just, any kind of information, things that he might be planning to do, where he's going to put his resources, so that they could destroy the opponent of the president. And it seems to me that if you're the president of the United States, you control all the intelligence of the U.S.
Yeah.
Please let me finish. We heard about rabbits. We heard about Carter's shirts, his sweaters. Now, if you control all the intelligence agencies and you decide you're going to use them as president against your political opponent who doesn't have control over the FBI and the CIA, then basically what you're doing is you've turned America into what is called a police state. You're basically deciding to use all the powers of the American government against your political opponent. And what we also found out this week, is people are beginning to say, how do we know that this is the first time that Obama did this? How do we know that it was just against Trump in 2015 and 16? How do we know that they didn't start doing things like this the minute he took office? So my point is this, Rick. You're very fond of calling people, what'd you call Trump now? A jackass, an asshole? I don't know what it was.
Jackass. I used to say
Jackass, yeah. And you were like making little jokes and talking about all these funny little stories. And in your lifetime, the three heads of our intelligence agencies were turned against the opponent of the president. And that doesn't bother you one bit.
Well, that's not the point I was making. And
well,
really,
would you like to address the point I made?
Yeah, let me address the point, because
I think it's a tad serious.
All right, your media is the one that...
So you don't believe it? Didn't happen. They're lying to me.
Well, fucking Hannity, the human thumb.
No. I don't want to hear your opinion about the media. I want you to either address what I said, either what I said happened or it didn't.
Well,
Are you saying it didn't happen? I'm making it up because my media made it up? None of this happened.
Yeah, I don't think it happened. I don't think... Now, and we have investigations that will... These are this Barr investigation. If there's any malfeasance to be found, we'll find it.
Well, they've just found it, Rick.
They didn't. The investigation has barely started. He just appointed a guy.
Rick. It turns out that the head of, I'm just going to call it the KGB. I think it's the GRU, but
I think it's, or the MGU, one of those.
Something like that. The head of the KGB,
GRU sounds.
the head of the KGB wrote the dossier that was used by our CIA to get a warrant to surveil the president's political opponent. Does that concern you in any way?
Yeah, as part of a general, I mean, let's say that that's true.
Yeah.
All right, so let's,
And
now, wait, and now, parts of the dossier, not less directly pertaining to Trump, parts of the parts of the dossier, the main parts of the dossier that have been corroborated, have been confirmed, that have been proven, tend to be that Russia was trying to conduct an all-out information war on the 2016 election. And that this would have been one more element of that, right?
No, nothing in the dossier has been proven.
No, that's bullshit. That's
Rick,
100% bullshit.
Rick,
Because we went over this last. No, here's all right. Here's where we start. Here's the yelling part of tonight's show. I apologize to anybody who's trying to relax, but we went over this. Parts of the dossier have conclusively been proven, and those parts are the ones about Russian interference, because the dossier is not all about Trump. The dossier is largely about, I don't know if it's 50% or 40%, but roughly a bunch of the dossier is about Russia fucking with the election, and nobody disagrees with that. That's all been proven.
Okay.
All right, now the Trump shit.
Last week,
we went over it.
You admitted that nothing in the dossier about Trump is true.
No, I didn't admit that. I said that the stuff that's been proven to be true is the shit about Russia fucking with the election.
Did Trump so what the dossier said about Trump was true?
That stuff hasn't been corroborated. It doesn't mean that it's not true.
So you think that Trump colluded with Russia? Because that's what the dossier says about Trump.
The dossier says, well, it doesn't say Trump made specific deals.
I read the dossier. That's what it says.
It doesn't say that Trump made
Yes,
deals
it
with
says,
the Russian government.
Yes. It says that Trump colluded with Russia. That and that he went to orgies, a lot of sexual behavior, and that he was basically being compromised by Putin. Now, do you believe that?
No,
Rick?
I believe the second part, what you just said, that he was compromised by Putin.
Okay, Mueller says that's not true.
No, compromised is a nebulous word.
The Mueller report says that Trump did not collude with Russia. Do you understand that, Rick?
Colluding with Russia and being compromised by Russia.
The Mueller report said he was not compromised by Russia. The dossier has not been verified. Nothing about Trump in the dossier has been proven.
I'll give you most of that.
Okay, the dossier was written by Russian intelligence.
Okay.
And it was used by our CIA to subvert the candidacy of Obama's opponent. Are you okay with that, Rick?
I'm okay with letting... Now, the bar and people who...
No, we already have these facts. Do you understand? We have these facts. These are facts. They don't need to be investigated. They happen.
I'm okay with... I believe that the bar is... And we can argue about it or not, but I believe that Barr is, to some extent, to a great extent, is politically biased. But let's not argue about that, because that's just a side argument. No, but hold on. Let me say what I fucking think, instead of you yelling at me before I get to say what I think. What I think is this. Barr has appointed this person who can indict people, right?
Yes.
Now, I think Barr is politically biased, but in favor of Trump. But I'm okay with letting him do this investigation or appoint this investigator and let him do his worst. And if there's any, if it turns out that Trump was fucked with for bullshit, then okay, so be it. Let the investigation bring it out. But the deal is, you just said, and I'll give you, apparently, let's say it's true that the head of the GRU wrote a lot of the stuff in the dossier. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not. Now, it could be, it may likely be, just to fuck up things in America. But there's also a chance that some of it's true. So let's let this Barr investigation play out, and, you know, all right, maybe Clapper gets indicted, maybe Comey gets indicted, maybe the other guy. You should be delighted with the possibility that they'll get indicted. But let's let the fucking investigation happen. But my bigger point, which is what I'm trying to make, is aside from all this, what could happen. Now, Trump supporters could continue to support Trump solidly, because his support has been the most stable level of support of any president since polling began. It hasn't been super high, but it's the range that it's been in has been the narrowest of any president. His support has been less wavering than any president.
Why do you suppose that is?
Wait, please let him finish, because I have to draw. I have to respond.
All right. So the deal, but I'm saying that if his support level is going to change, it may not be as a consequence of being exonerated by something or being found guilty of something. It could be for crazy, trivial reasons, the way it's been for other presidents. Fucking rabbits that swim up and bite you on the hand.
Okay. Are you finished? May I continue?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. Rick, I want to explain something to you. The United States government is not allowed to investigate or surveil its citizens unless they are actually spies for another country. That's the law.
Well, unless you can't.
You have to actually be involved in a serious crime for the CIA to start surveilling you.
Well, can we say that there has to be serious suspicion? Because
no, because
then that makes no fucking sense. It makes no sense.
You said I could speak.
All right, but
Rick, you said I could speak.
Fine, fucking speak.
Okay. If, say, the head of the KGB writes a letter saying, I think Rick Rosner is a spy for us, for the KGB, and they give this to the CIA is not allowed to say to an American court, we think that Rick's a spy for Russia. Therefore, we want to put spies in Rick's campaign, and we want to surveil his phones and all of his emails, and we want to start releasing. We want in real time every email he sends, every conversation he has in private, and every phone call he makes for us to listen to it. The United States government is not allowed to do that on the basis of a letter from the KGB, because it would mean that American citizens had no rights anymore, that we had to fear our own CIA and FBI. Because if we were to run against a Democrat like Obama or Hillary Clinton, the CIA and the FBI would come up with any old excuse they wanted, including things that the KGB say, in order to harass and destroy their political opponents. And furthermore, it turns out that after the CIA got this information and the FBI, they leaked it, which is also illegal, to the American media, which then brainwashed you into thinking that Trump was colluding with Russia. Now, my question to you is, I know that you're concerned about rabbits and funny things that presidents do, but are you the slightest bit concerned that the Obama administration was using these kinds of tactics against their political enemies?
All right, so I'll answer. I'm not very concerned. If anything, I think Obama is guilty of not giving enough of a shit. Obama, what do they call him? No drama Obama. Now you think he's some kind of like super secret plotter, and Obama was kind of checked out in my view. Now I don't know anything. I'm just a fucking guy on a stupid podcast who tends not to do his homework. But Obama seems like, and he said it. He said
it's funny to you.
No,
it amuses you.
I'm just that. No, I'm not amused, but like he said, I don't have to worry about any of this shit. I already got elected. I don't have to run for president again. I already got elected. Now, there's a quote from, he said it in front of a bunch of people. It was a ha-ha. He made a joke. I don't care. I already got elected twice. I can't be elected
According
again.
to an email released by Strzok of conversations between Strzok and Page, who worked for the FBI, the president was demanded to be informed of all activities.
Okay.
Doesn't bother you one bit, huh?
Well,
It's of no concern to
You've
you.
got an investigation that's
I don't need an investigation, Rick.
Well,
I already know what happened. I just told you. Why doesn't it bother you? Because it was your guy, not mine? I know if Trump kept his money in a bank that also took money from Russians, you're willing to impeach him. But your guy uses the CIA and the FBI to harass his political opponents, and you make jokes. You think it's the funniest thing you've ever heard. He's no drama Obama.
You've played the same tune for 2 years.
Yeah, and
which
nothing's
is
getting through.
Nothing's part of the there's currently 29 investigations going on into Trump. You're using the deal that one of the investigations into Trump was tainted by shitty information, and that because of this, that's the big problem. That Trump, who's been, Trump bragged. I just looked it up. Trump bragged in one of his books that when he was in second grade, which makes him 7 or 8 years old, he punched out his music teacher because he thought that I don't know. He punched a teacher when he was in second grade because he thought she was, he was sent away to military school because he was out of control. He punched, according to his own telling, he punched a teacher when he was 7 years old because he thought the teacher didn't know her stuff. Now, there's plenty of evidence that Trump has been some kind of an a-hole. He's 72, he's going to be 73 next month. He's been an a-hole for 66 years. And so, one of the investigations into Trump, maybe it started on the basis of exaggerated or bullshit information. But, Trump has been, the Atlantic just came out. I should have done my homework, but again, my brand is not doing my homework. My brand is not being fully informed. But the Atlantic came out with an article that listed Trump's entire history of racism. And you're saying Trump's not a racist. And I didn't do my homework, so I can't list the entire things, but he's got a long history of things that if you wanted to construe him as being a racist, you could, according to the fucking Atlantic, in an article which I didn't fucking read. But anyway, Trump has been kind of hinky and questionable his entire life. He punched a teacher. How many 7-year-olds punch a teacher? I mean, and go on to be president, say. So there's an investigation as to whether the dossier and the FISA warrants, based on in part on the dossier, that people overstepped, and we will find out within 3 months, 4 months. We already found out this thing about the GRU, apparently. So, I am fucking biased. The show is about being biased. I'm liberal. You're conservative. But I will give you that if it turns out to be super fucking egregious what the FBI and the CIA did, or super stupid, or super corrupt, or super whatever-y, that I will be somewhat persuaded. I promise you that if it turns out that this investigation isn't completely bullshit, and that there was some actual abuse of power revealed, that I will go like 20% of the way to being convinced that it was bullshit, that the investigation was bullshit. I can't give you more than 20% because, yeah, I'm biased. But I will be like, I'll grudgingly admit, all right, the FBI fucked up. This was not kosher. So, but let's see what the investigation turns up.
Well, we waited 2 years for the Mueller investigation.
Yeah, and what happened was...
And Mueller did not indict Trump for collusion with Russia, and you still think he colluded with Russia.
So
the Mueller investigation didn't make any difference to you. So why should I believe that anything else will get through?
I don't know. You're going to have to...
You still think the dossier was true, and that Mueller was lying. Mueller actually was wrong, that it was actually Trump colluding with Russia, and you don't even understand why Mueller didn't indict Trump.
Quick question for Rick.
Yes.
Now that you're a city official,